Okay, I think I'm live. Hi, hello. Um,
Good intro.
yeah, I know. I'm so good at this. I'm a professional streamer, basically. Um, so this is a special edition thing. That is barely a thing. But I'm working on a map, as you can see here. Um, This is going to be for some of the games we're playing, particularly with the newcomers game. I don't know if I've actually talked about that anywhere or not, but it's a thing we're doing, um, and it's going to be set in a city called Marshal's Cloke in the world that we've been playing the rest of the stuff in, and so we're kind of building Marshal's Cloak. I have a bunch of factions. I have a basic outline of the map. I have some tidbits from another world building game a few of us did a while ago. Um, and that's basically it. And then, I'm going to be drawing this map, but it's going to be cool and fun. Um, so here we go. Let me pull up. Do I have. No, I need this. It's in this one. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I have it on here. Okay, great. So this is the a couple. Who is it? It was me and Local N7 and Guy Fox did a game in the Quiet Year where we did this for Tovol and just sort of do a little bit of world building pre anything that we use in the game. So here's the sort of basic thing that I'm working off of. Um, it's a little chaotic, but that's how that game tends to be. But we got lots of cool information, um, and so now I've sort of detailed this map a little bit more. Ooh yeah, get that zoom in, and added a few extra things. And so now we'll be putting city stuff on top of it. So I've got some pencils. I've got some colored pencils. It's very exciting. Um, all right.
What
So,
brand are they?
they are Crayola. I don't know.
Shout out to our sponsors, Crayola, for this stream.
Yeah, if
Just
only.
kidding. We don't get sponsors.
If only. Um. So. Oh, and also, hi, it's me, the Wraith, and I'm here with Hawkeye.
Oh,
For the moment, maybe more people will be jumping in. I
well,
don't know. We'll see what happens.
you said that like I'm just going to bail on you.
Well, yeah, okay, whatever. Um,
It's very non committal.
no, I mean, this whole thing is pretty non-committal at this point. Um, to be perfectly honest. So let's see. So where should we start? I guess probably with some, maybe some walls. I feel like city walls is probably a good place to start.
So is this one city then that we're looking at, basically?
Yeah, so this is here I can give some context here. I think I have this map, right? Yes. So here's the full Geltanok map, the whole continent. And the Toberon Tovolm right there. Oh, you can't see my cursor in this. Um can I ping? I can ping. Tovolm. Um is this Toberon. So most of the game we've been playing so far has been over here onto Jeff. Um, that's where. Oh, maybe you should put my phone on vibrate, or it doesn't really matter. Whatever. This is very low key right now. Very professional. So this, yeah. So the city of Marshal's Cloak basically takes up the entire back of Tovoln here. I'm in my brain sort of imagining this as like a I don't know, somewhere in the area, just to give it some context, somewhere in the area of like a Manhattan or something. So this is like a really really big city, especially for a fantasy context. So whereas like we've seen Third Shoulder and New Water Nest, both of those are relatively small, and this place is enormous. There's a lot of stuff kind of going on here that will I don't know. I guess now is probably a decent time to sort of get into all this. So we got the three sort of major powers at work here in Marshal's Cloak are the Iron Scabbard, the Fastened Clasp, and the Knights of the Holy Ground. Um, so the Iron Scabbard is the kind of de facto ruling faction. Is that big enough that you can see that on a stream? Like reading
Uh,
those words, or is it too
I
small?
mean, it probably would be if I didn't have you on a vertical monitor.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
So I was, yeah.
um, so the Iron Scabbard is kind of like the de facto sort of ruling power. They are a big military power. Um, they are. I'm sort of thinking of them as being kind of uh, quasi fascistic, kind of leaning towards like police state tendencies, that sort of thing. Um, the yeah, so like I said, they control most of the government, the sort of civic government. They control the military, the navy, um, the sky navy, that is, and I think that's most of it. And the like the police, quote unquote, police force. Um, then the I'll skip down. The Knights of Holy Ground are a faction that has been sort of losing kind of influence in the past handful of years. The game we played was like I think we ended. I think we said like 5 years before kind of quote unquote modern times in terms of our timeline for the game. And by the end of that, the Knights of the Holy Ground were sort of losing influence, but they're still, one of the three big kind of power players here. They are, I mean, really the easiest, closest analog to give are they're basically like kind of Jedi type, where they're a sort of quasi religious military group. They're super concerned with their cartographers, and the sort of the threat that they pose, even though they've been dormant for a while, although now they're kind of less dormant, as we've seen in the other game. Um, the character that I'm playing in the Ironsworn game, Knight of the Holy Ground, coincidentally, is a Knight of the Holy Ground. So they kind of see themselves as sort of silent protectors in a way, or like that they're the ones sort of watching out for the threat of the cartographers, even though nobody else cares about it. And the Iron Scabbard is largely concerned. They've got a whole big thing going on with the Ebon Armada, who, if we look at back at our Geltanok map, so the Ebon Armada is based off of Tobrin over here, and 5 years ago was when Tobrin made its crossing from another Togel Baroth. I think we know that. I'm not spoiling things here. I don't know. Maybe I'll be spoiling things. So and sort of immediately attacked Marshal's Cloak and stuff. So they've been kind of at each other for that whole 5 year period. And then with all them being concerned and jockeying for power and all that kind of stuff, the Fastened Clasp then they rose to power, kind of being a sort of people's champion faction, there was a there's then Fave. What was their name? I have it here somewhere in my notes. Covenally. They were the sort of the leader of the Fasten class. They were sort of this at the time of their beginning, like this almost held up as almost this sort of messianic figure, because they were, in Faith being so rare. They had a quill. They had this sort of scar on their face that had like sort of scarred through their medals on their face and this whole thing. But they rose up as this sort of champion of the people, and through the course of that game that we played, they basically took control by force of some of the pieces of the production line in the city. So they took over. I should just leave this up and keep jumping back and forth between these. So they took over up here. In this game we played were what we decided to call Iker mines, which Iker is basically Toberon blood, and that was the big source of wealth and industry and that kind of stuff. So they sort of took over that. They set up here. They set up their own set up control of the courts and the banks. And then this was kind of the thing. This I think they were also. It's a big like lift system to pull up water from the river to get all their agriculture. That's what all this was. So they kind of strategically took control of these things in order to try and keep a balance, some semblance of a balance of power. So rather than having the Iron Scabbard just sort of run over everything, they were able to sort of pull some of that influence back. So this area over here is where the Iron Scabbard sort of set up their government. This here and then this down here on the head of the Toberon was where the Knights of the Holy Ground kind of had their setup, and then like I said, down here in this area was the areas where the Fasten Clasp set up. So then other interesting things to note. So we're gonna be playing this newcomers game. So I guess if I haven't talked about this, I should sort of take a second. So I am going to be running a game. That's gonna be this special fun thing. That's gonna start as a quote unquote one shot, because it'll be two separate sessions with different people, but with a group of 5 fellow LXOGers who are completely new, who have never played any tabletop RPGs. And so we're going to be playing in a system called Blades in the Dark, which I'm really excited to play. So they're going to be playing as a group operating inside of the Bohemians faction in Marshal's Cloke here, who, the Bohemians enjoy a good amount of influence over in Tojeth, in Newwater Nest, and Third Shoulder. Here they're a much more sort of underground, almost underworld faction. So these characters will be playing a group of scoundrels and thieves or whatever, who are part of the Bohemians, and doing some stuff. So that's why Blades in the Dark is going to be a great system for that, and I'm really excited about it. So part of what we're doing for this is setting up factions and city districts and mapping out all this, so we have some good information to work off of for that game in particular. But then I'm sure we'll also use it if our main campaign ever gets over to Marshal's Cloak. I don't know. Do you know if you guys had plans to get over there eventually, or I can't remember what you had. what you had say if we had decided anything like that.
I don't think that we've ever talked about it.
I mean, I guess we haven't really talked about what we're really doing next anyway. So,
But I mean, yes, I would assume we'll probably start heading that way at some point if we're going to try to oust the Ebon Armada. So
sure. And you also there was that one thing you did where you sort of saved some treaty from getting sabotaged by the Armada, which was a treaty between New Water and Marshal's Cloke. So relationships between the two would be worse off if it wasn't for you guys. And then the other piece of this that makes it fun, specifically for Blades in the Dark, is the stuff that went on in this area right here. So this was a thing that I have listed on this map here as the Maw. It's a giant hole in the ground, sort of between the two legs of two of the legs. Anyway, this is this big sort of giant 6-legged, so 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3, or 3, kind of thing that's on its stomach, sort of rolled over a little bit to this side, as it's been basically in a coma for hundreds of years. Very sad. So
we didn't do that, did we?
No. That was the cartographers that did that. It's always fun to be afraid of PC unintended consequences. So there was a cult that popped up, and they were obsessed with this hole here, this maw, and at one point there was I forget. I think it was like there's like a card that she pulls, like a small child discovers something, digs up something, blah blah. But in the course of that, we discovered that it was basically a baby Toberon, which is what this is, or as I have listed on this map. I'll zoom in. The little one.
The little one.
And the cult did this wacky. I mean, wacky is maybe not the best idea. The cult did this terrible dark ritual thing, where I think they took a bunch of Iker Toberon blood and like poured it down the maw or something, and to get, I guess, potentially a little spoilery, maybe not, I don't know. Basically, what I've now decided that they ended up doing was this because of this Toberon being in a coma, because of sort of discovering that there's this baby Toberon, they're basically in this ritual. What ended up happening was a giant like sky laser shot up from the maw, and there was this weird spectral like shadow play that played out of this baby Toberon like dying and landing where it is currently. So there, and these two things here were sort of like cartographer relics that we discovered over the course of the game. At least one of them was taken by the Knights of the Holy Ground, and they did some terrible, awesome stuff with it. So basically, the implication is that this Toberon specifically was a center for a fair amount of cartographer activity. You know, like hundreds of years ago, whatever, when they were in their heyday. So what this ritual then ended up doing was kind of thinning the barrier between this reality and a bunch of other like alternate slash parallel whatever realities, dimensions, whatever you want to call them, that the cartographers were sort of working with or whatever. Um, because that's the kind of stuff that they get into. So there's a lot of weird stuff that is apt to
I can
happen.
I can name one.
Oh, what is that?
Well, how did we get to this world?
Oh, well, sure. I mean, that's a whole different thing.
It doesn't sound like it is.
Well, I mean, I guess you don't. I know, but uh, I guess you guys don't know much about what all that is. But parallel realities and things like that is a thing to be considered, I suppose. Um, so yeah, because the Blades in the Dark setting. I mean, obviously we're adapting the setting a little bit, but the setting is pretty spooky. It's a sort of like almost like steampunky Victorian esque thing with like a bunch of ghosts and industry and that kind of stuff. So in leaning into that a little bit, there's some spooky things going on. I have general ideas about there being sort of weird stuff that happens with soul beasts in this area. Like maybe there are like literal like ghosts of like untethered soul beasts or something, of like people that died, or soul beasts from
That's a
alternate.
really fun way to tie in this whole kind of supernatural aspect of Blades
Right?
in the Dark with what we
Isn't
were doing.
Doesn't that sound fun?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to attacking players with rabid untethered soul beasts. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I can tell.
Also, Dan, I don't know if you noticed you had a player join us.
I had someone. Oh, I have the who's in here. Hello, how's it going?
Doing well. Can you hear me? I spoke earlier, but nobody responded.
I did not hear you before, but I can hear you
I
now.
did not either.
Okay. Well,
Welcome.
I'm trying to. I just. Oh, that was fast and easy. I just installed the actual Discord app on this computer, so I'm going to switch over to that. Just a second.
Oh, okay. Another. I don't have the streamer mode enabled, so I never hear the people joining the thing.
We got a Sir Chasix here
Chazix,
too.
hello.
It's not true.
Sounds like it's true.
Nope.
And I'm back.
Hello.
Beautiful.
This is our friend General Nasal. He's going to be one of our players for the newcomer game here.
Nice.
So.
I'm Chris. Nice to meet you.
Colin, nice to meet you.
Okay. Who I think I am getting a little bit of an echo from somebody. Maybe.
You sure you're just not making that up?
Maybe it's possible. Anyway, so. Okay. So just a disclaimer to our new people here: we are streaming, so don't start listing your social security number or something. I don't know.
481.
Okay, so let me get myself all sorted here. So with that kind of general information stuff out of the way, let's start putting some stuff on this map. Yeah, we'll go through some of these factions when I get more into this here, but So yeah, so I think probably a good place to start would be to start with some walls, right? Um,
So where can I access the stream?
if you go on twitch.tv/the_wraith, that's my Twitch, and you can find that there. What color should I make the walls? Should I make them brown? I want to make this a little bit colorful because there's a lot going on here. All right. So looking off of the, oh man, so many tabs. This thing here. So we've got the walls basically from our original game go more or less around the whole thing, and then cut off at the legs a little bit there. So here's a question. So this whole right side of the map, all over here, is, at least in this, I mean, this scale is probably a little funny, so we'll see how we adapt it to the new version of the map here, but is mostly agriculture stuff, which is, based on what we did in the game, a little sort of higher on the technology scale. So it's like nice, good agriculture, farms and things. Do you think they would have walls around all of that too, or would the walls kind of cut off? So like if we had the farms,
I mean,
sort of
is
in
there
the
a
walls.
reason canonically that they would need to wall off some farmland?
I mean,
Like, do they have a problem with crop thieves, or is I guess the way I could see that being justified is if this is kind of where they've been mining the ichor,
yeah,
and that's a valuable resource that I could see being mined off or walled off. But if it's like pasture with either crops or animals, I don't see a reason that they would need that unless they've had problems.
Yeah, I mean the only thing I can think of there is with them being sort of at odds with the Ebon Armada for a number of years. Although, really, what good do walls do when you can fly in sky ships? I guess.
Yeah.
They have canonically also had problems with Gale Walkers in the past. That's that's what these little.
Is a wall gonna stop
corpses
Gale
are
Walkers?
over there. I mean, Gale Walkers don't have sky ships, at least.
Yet.
Whoa. Okay. So maybe we'll leave the agriculture stuff outside of the wall then, because usually in like a medieval city, most of that farmland is going to be outside of the wall, right?
I would think so. Yeah.
But I mean that's probably also just for space concerns and stuff like that. But I don't know. Well, either way, we could probably start with so in terms of access points onto the Tobron itself, I'm imagining most of all this is going to be pretty cliffy. This is like one of the legs. I'll try to point where you can see. This is like one of the legs here. This is another leg. This is another leg. This is the head. So there's like a little bit of access to some of these areas, but the main points of access are this side of this leg and this side of this leg. So there would definitely be, if the wall cuts off, here on the legs, like pants, or I guess like a big shirt.
So I guess my big question with this specific area is if this Tolbaron has been in a coma, is this city like built on the side of it?
Yeah. I mean this.
So if it wakes up, everybody here is kind of fucked.
Oh, absolutely, 100%. And that's
All right.
and that's what this
I
giant
love that.
that's what this giant thing is. I forget if this happened during the ritual or if it was something else. There was a point at which the Toberon sort of like kind of shuddered a little bit. I think we were referring to it as the sigh, and that naturally like freaked everybody out pretty badly because this is a Toberon. Of all the Toberon on Geltanok that we've seen so far, they all move. Some more frequently than others, but this one has never moved like in historic memory. So this one sort of having that, even just that bit of shuddering movement to it, like put everybody into a huge panic.
I can't imagine why.
But yeah, this is this city is built all over the back of this thing. I'm totally imagining some of the more cliffy parts, like maybe down here where there's like stuff built down along the outside of it, stuff like that. This is a city that has sprawled pretty significantly, and is using up as much of the space on this thing as possible. Anyway, all right, I'm gonna start drawing some walls. So it would probably make sense. Yeah, I mean, the way we had it set up before was that the walls were basically lining the whole inside of the Toberon here. And I don't really see any reason to depart from that. I do want to think about. You think they might have like a? I can barely see what I'm doing. It's okay.
So there are things in the wild which
Coloring.
be kept out.
Yes, the over on this map, these little bodies out here are the bodies of Galewalkers. There was at one point a incursion of Galewalker hordes that attacked and were driven off. And the wilds in general are dangerous. So
Do
yes.
the other settlements, do the other cities, other Toberons, also have? Are they entirely encircled by walls?
No, not really. Third Shoulder got in trouble because it got attacked. That was before. This was after. Got attacked by a Galewalker horde while the players were there, and got pretty messed up.
Yeah, it was totally the Gelewalkers that did all of that damage.
Absolutely, this giant
Totally was.
crashed ship-shaped
Nope.
object. This huge swath of terrifying magical napalm. And
That was all them.
This
That was all them.
this little explosion blast zone. All them, amazing.
I mean, Scott definitely did crash a ship into that whole city.
I also definitely set off a whole shit ton of napalm.
Well, this one over here was the one where you filled up the little ship you bought, right? You filled it up with gunpowder and
Oh yeah, and then I
flew
crashed
over
it
and blew it up
on purpose.
Oh, that's great.
So it's definitely generally good practice and worth the money to
Yeah, totally.
wall off your entire livable area.
And this Newater Nest, this other city that's on Tojef, is this one's a little more sheltered. If you're thinking about, the Toberon as a big creature, this is in my vision sort of like in the kind of like the small of the back, basically, of Tojef.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Tojeth is also a lot bigger than Tovon, and is probably not quite as easy to access.
Okay.
In terms of like getting up on the back of it, but But Tavon is also Marshal's Cloke is also a heavily militarized
Sure.
city.
I'm just thinking of
So
medieval castle construction. Generally speaking, um, I mean, plenty of cities ended up being walled.
hmm
But that wasn't the first thing you did. You built a keep and you walled off that keep, and if a village sprung up, it sprung up outside the walls, and only after it long got established, they put walls up, and then the
around that.
city would tend to continue to grow beyond that anyway.
hmm
There's always town beyond the wall. Now I understand that geographically this is a bit different since there's so far out you can go.
Right.
It does make sense to build your wall at the extreme edge, but that's the most expensive option, obviously.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. No, that is an interesting point. Um, I mean, this wall could have been something that came up. This ultimate wall could be something that came up a little bit later. I would imagine. Uh, speaking in sort of like keep terms, this here is where the seat of the Iron Scabbard kind of government is. And so this I think would definitely have its own kind of walls around it. And then especially once they became a little more sort of quasi industrialized, this the rest of this wall could have popped up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, from an architectural standpoint, corners are weak spots.
Mm. As opposed to just straight lines.
Right. And also gentle curves. Round towers are stronger than square towers, but I'm just looking at the protruding the wall down the legs. It would be perfectly reasonable to me if they just cut it off at
Yeah.
the shortest line between.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like if you move about an inch to the right, I think.
So like here,
I can't see your hand.
like there, because the
Oh, I
ac-
was thinking.
the access from here, this kind of steadily grades down to like main
Okay.
sea, not sea level, but like main ground level. So
Yeah.
this would be the way you would get up on this one. So if there was the wall cut off here, and they have a
hmm
big gate in the middle of that.
It would make sense to me to have then a secondary wall behind it of distance so that, like an outer gatehouse and an inner gatehouse.
Okay.
Uh, the place to, if the first breached, you then have them surrounded, murder holes and all sorts of things to.
Right.
Again, I'm not sure how effective land warfare is in this world, but in a world without flying and where land warfare is effective,
Right.
long approaches over difficult terrain with multiple guardhouses was a pretty successful strategy.
Sure. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So maybe there would be some area of uh yeah, like you're saying, like this is the forwardmost gate. And then if they
Mhm.
have some kind of like almost like fort type thing like in here that you would have to get through then once you got through that.
Right.
Okay. This is going to get really confusing looking really fast, I feel like. So I'm trying to mitigate that with these colors, but I don't know how well that's going to work. then we definitely have walls around the head here.
So the ichor is mined from the head?
The ichor is mined from this little section here. This is like a gouge basically out of the shoulder.
Okay.
That I think I'm gonna call that either the Viridian defile or the Emerald defile. Defile
Nice.
being a fun play on like both a a gorge canyon and also
And it
like
just
yeah. So whether that was a cartographer thing or what, who knows? But they definitely would have kept digging through that, and they're I don't really know for sure what kind of anatomy goes on with a Toberon, but if you've got some kind of what's the vein that goes through the neck, the big.
there's the
Carotid.
So yeah, it's as if they're getting at like tapping into one of those, which is fun and terrifying.
can't remember the name of the vein that returns.
All right.
World building curiosity. How viscous is core? Is it
I think
far
trying
blood?
to think if I have it's thicker than blood. I'm trying to think if I have a description of it because I know I've written one somewhere. Let's see, where would that be? Slightly viscous, nearly opaque liquid in deep emerald color that shifts and internally pearlesces depending on the light. Is what I have written.
All right, thick.
So pretty thick, yeah. Not like sludge, but
Like a milkshake.
like a sure, like a smoothie.
Ichor smoothie.
Iker smoothie.
Good Toblerone smoothie.
Let's have this one come here. So cut off that. Oh, and also for anyone who missed this, just in general scale terms, I'm thinking of this being sort of roughly the size of like Manhattan or something. So this is quite large, especially for a fantasy city. All right, I don't know how far over we're going with that yet, but maybe I'll fill in the rest of that later. So then I wanted to have sort of, like I said, sort of keep-ish area around here. How much of that today? So they're definitely going to have their sort of main military sky docks enclosed in this area. Because this is where the sort of the main seat of the Iron Scabbard's government, at least, is going to be. Because this is the circles and stuff here are indicating that this arm is like if this was like the Toberon lying down and this was this, it's like sort of like that almost. So like this area is sort of that kind of. So it's a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, it's sort of leaned over to this side a little bit, so this kind of half of it is a little higher than the other half as well. Just for random reference sake. So trying to think how much of a wall I should put around this area here. Let's just do something and call it fine. Put some interesting-ish shapes in there, just for funsies. There we go. So this area then will be the kind of the main keep-ish thing where the iron scabbard's set up. All right, so why don't we go... I guess I want to figure out how much of this is taken up by agriculture here. So to feed a city this big, you're gonna need a lot. Even stuff being a slightly more technologically advanced, I would imagine you can sort of compact that a little bit, but I don't know.
I mean, are magical fertilizers or non-magical fertilizers?
Yeah,
The world is really good at.
So yeah, because this is one of the things that I think we had established through the course of this game was that their agriculture here was particularly good. Part of this could be due to some of the fact that so in this world, rivers are sentient, or sapient. I can never remember which one's which. In the other game, we've met Sifwesi, the river. This river is called Inaket, and this kind of like tower thing here is like a big lift system that pulls water up from the river for irrigation. So, magical irrigation water probably does some fun things. But I guess part of the point of this being, even if it were this amount of like farmland and pasture and stuff like that, that's probably not going to be enough to feed this whole city, right?
I'm curious to know, like, how food self-sufficient Manhattan was at various points in
That would be interesting
history. Because obviously large swaths of it were land at one point before the city fall. Originally, clearly, as much of it as they possibly could farm is how much they farmed, but
sure.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to look up.
Yeah, that would.
Which I may keep my phone and do right now.
Research. Well, either way, I think I had been sort of thinking about there being, other settlements with farms and stuff out in the wilds that brought food in.
I mean,
city, that kind of stuff.
Their industry is rich, so they can afford to buy food.
Right, and it's a world with airships, so
easy transportation, yeah.
Easy transportation, and if they're worried about Gelwalker hordes or anything like that, their food production could be moved as far, I mean, for lack of a better term, like inland, as they wanted it to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think my big thing with this city is that all of the other ones are mobile. This one is built on something that should be mobile and hasn't been.
Right.
And it's built in such a way that if it does go mobile, this whole city's fucked.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to imagine that if you have important shit like food and other resources, you're going to build that somewhere that where it is stable, so that if something happens and you have to leave, you still have access to that.
That's an interesting point.
I mean, that sounds like a brilliant idea and very unhuman.
Far too forward thinking.
Oh, it hasn't moved so far. It probably won't move. It's fine. We'll just do it all here. It's easy that way.
Um.
The world hasn't ended yet.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's only moved. It's only sheltered a little bit. It's gonna be fine.
I mean, that was a one-off sort of thing.
Yeah. Right. It's gonna be fine. Okay. Well. So. Either way, I think it's good to establish that there is almost definitely going to be some manner of outside food as well. Okay, so here's a fun thing. So I have this that I'm calling the trough. That is, how in like really people with tons of back muscles, they have like that kind of trough down the middle of their back, where their spine is. Or am I making that up? Is that a thing?
Like where their spine is?
Yeah. Do I dare Google strong people backs? I don't.
Do it. Get on the list.
Muscular back.
It's just going to be pictures of Pat back.
All right, I think this is a stock photo, so I'm okay. Right? So like that, I mean, that's a huge, and he's also flexing a little bit, but that sort of like trough down the spine, I was sort of thinking about doing that. I mean, obviously these don't translate one-to-one to human anatomy, but I just thought it would be a cool feature to add in there. And I was just thinking, per the wall problem, this would probably be a good spot to like build the wall, wherever it starts to here, like to the edge of this, and then to the edge here, or I mean, I guess even around one side of it, and then you can use this as a sort of defensible thing, having bridges, sets of bridges over it. That might be fun. Because I was thinking about having a cool like city area that's just like a bunch of like bridges, like building in and around bridges, and the over the trough here, I think would be a cool place to do that. All right, so let's build this wall. We'll go out a little further here, and then we'll come up.
So I found some interesting statistics on medieval here.
Yes.
1 square mile of land could support about 180 people in medieval England.
Okay.
And approximately 70% of town's population would need to be farm laborers.
Wow.
So
That's a
let's
lot.
look up square mileage of Manhattan.
Now, does that? I mean, I'm assuming that changes a little bit as you get more technologically advanced, right?
Absolutely.
Do they have tractors in this world powered by the same stuff that powers the airships?
Maybe powered by Iker. I don't exactly know what Iker does yet. But I know that it's some kind of magical, potentially power source something or other thing. I don't know that we really talked about it much in the Quiet Year game, just that it was like an important thing.
So Manhattan is about 3 square miles.
So what would that translate to? Wait, how many square miles?
23.
23. Okay.
Oh, you said 3. I was like, I don't think that's true.
So I was.
So using these numbers, if 100% of Manhattan land, and you could feed 180 people per square mile, then you could get about 1,400 people fed with Manhattan.
If Manhattan was entirely farmland.
Which this clearly isn't. And
Right.
I don't know, 4,000 people. I've been imagining Marshall's larger than that.
Larger than what? 4,000, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
So all to say, it doesn't necessarily work out completely logistically, but
Fantasy.
fantasy. All right. I do think this needs to come down. Unless that's outside the wall. I guess that could be. Because this was a special thing we did in this game as well. This is Iniket's Grove. There's like this fun. What was it? It was like some kind of like bioluminescent. I forget if they're birds or bugs or something that land in the trees, and they're all sorts of different colors, and they make it look really pretty. But Iniket's Grove is also the only place known where wild quill congregate, which are the little like sort of pangolin, dragonfly, mystical, magical creature things. And that's also where they found. Sorry. Street noises. That's also where they found Kinnarinth. That's where he showed up. After Toberin came over. Fun tidbit. Okay. Alright, well, we'll cut it off here. We'll call this... Oh, but the reason I was saying that is because due to Iniket's Grove sort of magical kind of inherent nature, there is one of the factions, what did I call it? The Academy for Applied Animantic Endeavors. This big fancy magic school that was originally intended to be a Iron Scabbard like animantic special ops group, but then had to turn into a slightly more cooperative academic thing, but still has a
Turned out to just be nerds.
What's that?
So it turned out to just be nerds.
Turns out to just be nerds. But you know, they did still get some manner of animatic special ops out of it. It's just not quite as robust as it would have been if they were able to do it themselves like they wanted to. So take that, Iron Scabbard. Bunch of jerks. So here's an interesting conundrum then. So I'm imagining... Let me zoom in a little bit. Yeah. I'm imagining this... should we take a vote? Do people like Emerald Defile or Viridian Defile better?
Let me look up Viridian.
The green being a reference to the color of Iger, since that's where the mines are. I mean, Viridian is a type of green. I think it's like maybe a blue green or something, but who cares? Just trying to decide which sounds cooler.
I lean Viridian.
Viridian.
I'm also leaning Viridian. I just.
Do you have an opinion?
I'm always gonna vote with the Pokemon reference.
Oh, is there a Viridian Pokemon city?
No,
The
Viridian City.
Viridian City.
Viridian
Okay.
Forest.
Anyway.
Yeah, the blue-green pigment.
Yeah, blue green. Yeah, it's still green. It's fine. It sounds cool. So this, all right. You can do this in a way that you can see it on stream. So this wall, or this edge of the head here, the darker shaded one. Then this line here is a sort of a step lower from that. This is me sort of trying badly to do whatever those maps are called, the elevation maps. So I guess the bottom of the defile here comes out at a lower level. So there would be this big sort of, I guess V-shaped kind of opening there. Do you think they would they wall that whole thing up? I mean, especially like you're saying with the mines being of great value.
I would think so.
Where it breaches outside the head there.
Mm-hmm.
Like what sort of access is there from the ground? Is it up in the air still, or is it?
It's still a little bit up in the air. But like people who had some intense gear and were good climbers and stuff, you could probably get to it. I mean, it'd be up a kind of a cliffside or whatever, but
You then just want to put watchtowers.
that could
With projectiles, because any approach is going to be slow. Plenty of time to pick them off.
That's true. Yeah, because because that would be a bit of an endeavor to build a whole thing in there. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Or you could just, I don't know, wall up the gap.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking. Like I said, sort of if you just like build a whole wall, like almost like a dam.
Right.
And
I mean, that might make sense if there's, Iker flow, and you don't want to lose it.
Yeah, I guess. I guess I hadn't really thought about that, about what that looks like at the bottom of the chasm there. Whether it turns into like a pool. Yeah, maybe that would be a good idea.
Wound, or is it a scar?
I mean, yes. All right, we'll wall that all up. Okay, and then do I want to wall across here? I guess probably. All right, well, there's our main walls then. Cool.
Does anybody live on the head?
That's the Knights of the Holy Ground. That's their. They have So they have this section. That's kind of their deal as well, and then this is down on the head is like kind of like their, more inner sanctum type area.
Mm-hmm. Their holy ground.
Yes, you could say. Okay. So if that's all farmland, so we're gonna have to change it a little bit. Because the courts and the banks and stuff would definitely want to be inside the walls here. And maybe I'll draw some more of that out later. But so this, then all of this out here would be our farmland. On the other side of the trough. So if we do some bridges, so I would say to go with my fun idea here of the bridges. I guess this changes a little bit from what I was originally thinking because of if half of it being walled off, but
what's at the bottom of the
I'm imagining sort of underneath of the bridges is probably kind of people like maybe sort of slum-ish places that people sort of pile into. But it's I wouldn't say it's terribly deep. It's probably not as deep as the defile up there, but
okay. So the wall will continue along the trough.
Yeah, so I have the wall going all along this side. I know it's hard to see. This side of the trough, and then I think I'll put like 2 sets of bridges, so like one here and like one here. I guess you can't see that at all. So we can have bridges north and bridges south.
Good, strong bridges, or the sort of bridges you knock down?
That is a good question. Probably stronger bridges, because this is, I mean, it's going to be very difficult to get up on this side.
That makes sense to me.
But I would imagine this is the kind of thing where there's like, maybe a handful of like main big bridges in each spot, and then like a bunch of other bridges sort of pop up around it, so it turns into this sort of section of the city in a sense, that it's its own little bridges community kind of a thing. So you've got people living on and around the bridges, stuff like that.
Does it rain in this world?
Yeah, there's all sorts of hilarious weather. Jasix has discovered some of it. So the trough definitely, this is why I would imagine it being a little sort of on the slummy side, because if it does rain, the trough is definitely getting like some water in the bottom of it.
Okay. But it drains.
There's probably some kind of drainage. But it definitely gets, at the very least, like pretty swampy down there. But in general, my basic rule is that each Toberon kind of has its own sort of biome, basically, because magic and stuff. And I had been imagining Tovoln generally being sort of like American Southwest, so sort of like dry-ish and like sort of sage and Joshua trees and stuff like that.
Juniper. Gin country.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, we do have the bread makers. flavor to my bridges here. I don't know, I'm trying to think if I can come up with a better name than just like Bridges North and Bridges South. Or is North Bridges and South Bridges better than that? Maybe that's better.
Ed Bridge and Budge.
I was trying to think about, because there's like,
Or Head and Foot, perhaps.
what is the, because there's like dorsal and ventral, and then is it anterior posterior? Is that the front and back version of that?
Right.
I think that's a little too on the nose, because for the most part we've also been doing like fun misspellings of things, like Third Shoulder, a town which is built on the shoulder of the Toberon is Sholdor.
I wondered about that. I wondered if it was meant to be like shoulder or if it was entirely different.
It is absolutely meant to be that. But it was like a fun thing that the party first showed up not knowing that this world was what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, oh, this town called Third Shoulder, that sounds kind of like shoulder. That's weird and funny. And then eventually realized that, this place is made up of giant creatures. Surprise.
This crew that's running this, are they all? This is their home world.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the things that's fun about it is that unless we're in the process of porting our characters, we were originally going to do it in Dungeon World 2, and then we decided to switch over to Blades of the Dark. But in the process of porting over characters, things might change. But as it stands now, we only have one human character. Everybody else is some other race, which is super fun. I'm really excited about getting to have player characters be non-humans. But yes, they are all from here. Okay. So there's a trough. There's North Bridges, South Bridges, or something. Maybe I'll come up with a better name. All right. So let's go make some decisions about factions. So I still haven't come up with a name for my bank. So let's sort of figure out sort of turf for some of these. So Iron Scabbard, we know, is in this area. Let's see. Just this a little bit. Fasten class stuff. I guess they should probably all be. It would be ideal for them to be sort of close together, right? So if they control the stuff, the Iker Supply Guild, and then the courts, which is the column for the People's Justice, and then the bank, which I don't have a name for yet. Would it be beneficial, do you think, to have them all be more or less in the same place? So like if we, the Iker Supply Guild is obviously here. If we had like the banks and the courts being, around here, like close to it, or would it be better to have them decentralized a little bit?
The more you transport it, the more likely you are to lose it.
That is very true.
I think if this were my medieval magic guild, I would I would make people come
Make
in a
people-
highly fortified area.
Yeah. That makes sense. So then if they're in that section, I don't know if I want to draw on this stuff yet, but we'll draw it in. Pencil it in. Maybe we'll say up to here. And then they can sort of fill in this area. Yeah, and then the Knights of the Holy Ground have their section here. We'll have them maybe. Well, maybe their section should be. Oh, maybe there's a section that used to be when they had more influence. The Knights of the Holy Ground, and they've since sort of receded from that a little bit, as they've kind of lost some influence.
So who would have taken it over? Because I assume they don't just give it up.
Right. That would be the question.
I mean,
Whether it's-
who have they lost their influence to? Is it the Iron Scabbard?
Yeah, I mean the scabbard and the clasp, and just kind of the general, because they used to be a big religious, power faction group, whatever, and then lost some of that over the course. They lost sort of the trust.
I forget what the clasps deal is.
The clasp is the banks, the courts, and the Ichor supply. They are, they started. I think they started as kind of this sort of people's champion. Kind of. What's the
Populist?
populist? That kind of thing, like workers. Blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. That's how they started. I think since then they've kind of fallen into a lot of bureaucracy, especially as they've tried to take more. But they're the ones that are kind of trying to forcibly took power by snatching up the Ichor mines, the banks, the courts, in order to keep power away from the scabbard.
Who was here first? Is there a here first?
I mean, so when we started playing the game, the factions weren't as sort of clearly established as they are now. So I think those factions all sort of like as the what became the Iron Scabbard started growing in power and centralizing their influence, then as that kind of happened, the clasp sort of emerged to counteract that a little bit. I think
So these are all fairly new.
Reasonably, yeah. As they stand now, I would say, I forget how long, because technically Quiet Year is supposed to be a year, but I think we might have stretched that a bit, and abstracted that out a little bit, but since the end of that, it's been 5 years. So
But we're not talking about 80 years of rule.
No, yeah.
Part of the reason I ask is also, like, how did Marshal Oak, how was it founded? You know, where did it start and grow from? And
Yeah, that I mean that is
on that knuckle
here.
and expanded from
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm. That sounds. I don't have anything concrete about any origins like that, but that I mean that makes the most sense.
So then the Iron Scab has the oldest part of the city, which is prestigious, though not necessarily. I mean, things don't stay historical if
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But yes.
get developed and reinforced and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's.
So the Knights of the Holy Ground, are they just Marshal's Cloke, or is this an organization that is spread across the world?
The knights themselves is basically just Marshal's Cloak. The Order of the Holy Ground as an institutional religion exists elsewhere. The quote unquote Pope of that religion is in New Water Nest.
The old ground pope.
The Ground Pope. Do I have? Yeah, the keepers quarters. Quarter over here. I forget if there's like a. I think Orn visited it. But yeah. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I'm just like drawing random sections here. Oh, someone join? Oh, it's Quasi. Hello.
Bonjour.
Greetings.
See, figuring out his microphone. While I'm drawing this. Let's poke this out a little bit. Just because. City district lines are rarely clean anyway, but.
The sound. Can you hear
Hey,
me?
hi. Can you hear us?
I can.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Does it sound like crap, or does it sound like okay, or
It's
is it
it's
just
not
in one earphone, or?
it's not the best, but it's fine.
You sound a little far away.
Yeah, this is a retrofitted ham microphone that I got my dad to put a new end on so that I could plug it into my computer.
That's kind of amazing.
I have to hold down a button to talk, but I have to hold it down really tightly, otherwise it doesn't work.
I love it.
All right. Well, we can. Quasi is another one of our newcomers, and we were gonna talk through the conversion of his character here. Just so you know, I am streaming, so it's doing some map stuff here. Do you mind doing that like on stream, or do you want to? We can like take a break for a little bit, and go do that. Do you have any preference?
You're not pressing the button hard enough.
Anyone or me specifically?
Yeah,
I do
you
not have a
specifically.
preference.
Okay. Great. All right. So I need to get you a player link. All right. I just sent you a link to join the new Roll20. Let me know if that works for you.
Goodness
look at
for
you.
password managers.
I know, right? I never remember what my password is for this. It's very useful.
It's not YBIQF65432, whatever the Google password manager suggests when you go to make a new password.
How did you know all my passwords?
Don't worry about it.
All right, I'll give you control. All right. So Quasi, the first question I had is, well, I guess regardless of whether you've had a chance to look through the playbooks or anything for the new system, were you interested in trying to sort of port Falvoama here as closely as possible, or were you interested in exploring some other options?
I remember very little, I think, so
Okay,
it doesn't matter.
All right. Well, we'll look into. We can sort of talk about some of the things you had done before, and we can. Let me just pull up this. So if you go, sorry, I'm talking way away from the mic. If you go into the group chat there were the links to the documents. If you go find and pull up the
Blades in the Dark, or
the Blades player kit is what you want. Blades in the Dark is the whole rule book, which is unnecessary. Does this have a quick? It doesn't. Okay. This one does though. Okay, so we'll sort of walk through the character creation process for you here. That's in the player kit there. So first,
page 2.
yes.
Yeah.
So first we want to go and choose a playbook. So you're using the wizard for. I have the other one open here so I can check on it. So using the wizard for for the old dungeon world that we were doing. Um, yours is going to be one of the more difficult ones to sort of port directly over because the magic, quote unquote magic, in this is a lot different. So, let me just read through the their sort of quick descriptions of the playbooks here and see if any of them jump out to you that sound fun. And as a note, it's you don't need to worry about if like two people are the same playbook. That doesn't matter. So, okay, so we have the cutter. Cutters are good at winning fights with violence and with intimidation. Play a cutter if you want to get your way. Hound. Hounds are good at tracking things down and also long distance combat. Play a hound if you want to choose your battles. Or a leech. Leeches are good at using alchemy and wrecking stuff with sabotage. Play a leech if you want to be creative with weird tools. You have a lurk. Lurks are good at sneaking around and breaking into places. Play a lurk if you want to slink around in the shadows. Then the slide. Slides are good at social situations and subterfuge. Play a slide if you want to manipulate and deceive people. We have a spider. Spiders are good at masterminding maneuvers. Play a spider if you want to assist teammates and deal with other factions. And finally, the whisper. Whispers are good at magical stuff and dealing with ghosts. Play a whisper if you want to meddle with arcane powers. So most of the sort of quote unquote magic we have in this system is dealing around like ghosts and supernatural things, which is a little bit different from the sort of the animancy stuff that we were making up and dealing with in the other system. So, if you wanted to go that route and look through the whisper, we can see what's there, maybe see what we can adapt or whatever. But anything striking your interest here as far as playbooks go?
Kind of feeling the one where you're manipulating people, I guess.
The slide, social situations and subterfuge.
Yeah, I think that's.
Okay, cool. Let me find that. So the slide, subtle manipulator and spy.
And I feel like since I've got hundreds more years of social experience than I would probably be better at manipulating people, I guess.
That is very true. And that's a really fun take on that. I like that. All right. Are you interested in? I mean, I guess your name comes last, but okay. So slide. So the next step is to choose a heritage. We'll save that for later, because that's something I want to talk with you through separately. And then since I don't want to get into for like anybody involved here, because there's based on what we were doing last time, there were some things that we were talking about that I don't think anybody else in the campaign knows yet. So so let's secrets. So let's cut over to background. So detail your. Where is this? There's better descriptions in the book here. Your character's background describes what they did before they joined the crew. So separate from your heritage, which is like your family line and that kind of thing. Sort of where you come from. Choose one of the general background options from the list in your playbook, and then write a detail about it that's specific to your character. For example, you could choose labor and then write Leviathan Hunter, Sailor, Mutineer, or you might choose law and write former Bluecoat. So, if you pull up your character sheet, do you remember how to do that? If you go
Roll 20 or
in roll 20, yeah. If you go over, there's the sidebar with the icons at the top. If you click on the newspaper looking one, it's the journal. And then Falvoama is. I should have given you access to that. Just let me know when you
right
found
link.
that. Cool. And then if you jump over to the character sheet section, you should see all the stuff.
The heritage section of the character sheet.
Yeah. So then look at the background. So they have academic, labor, law, trade, military, noble, underworld. This I think is something that we didn't necessarily talk a whole lot about, but last time at least. But what do you think? What do you think this character was doing before they, sort of in the time? I guess like after you got to Marshal's Cloke to the city, however long ago that was, to when to the point at which you joined the crew, which would have been very recently, since this crew is a new thing. What do you think you might have been doing during that time?
Good question.
I mean, you can use the sort of the general things they've got there as inspiration if you'd like. If there are any that are interesting to you, we can sort of take that and sort of flesh it out a little bit.
Is underworld like black market sort of stuff?
Yeah, criminal. I mean, underworld is where you guys are landing here in this crew.
Gotcha.
So, I can give you. They have this nice list. So, I'll read through these for you. So, academic, a scholar, a professor, or student from the academy, philosopher or journalist, etc. Labor, a servant, a factory worker, a coach driver, a docker, a sailor, a railjack, which we don't have. Law, an advocate or barrister, a blue coat or inspector, or even a spirit warden. Again, these are all things that are different for a setting. A prison guard from Ironhook, etc. Trade, a shopkeeper, a merchant, a skilled craftsperson, a shipping agent, etc. Military, an imperial or Skovelander soldier, a mercenary, an intelligence operative, a strategist, a training instructor, etc. Noble, a dilettante, a courtier, a scion, the scion of a fallen house, etc. Or underworld, street urchin, gang member, young thug, or other outcast who grew up on the streets.
Trade, I guess.
Trade? Okay. What are you... Just look at how I wrote these for the other people. Great. What are you finding interesting in there?
I think like I probably trade in specialty goods, things that are barely legal but also very expensive.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because remember last time we were talking about you being interested in like artifacts and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I'm on the edge between I guess almost what's it called, the scholarly, because I'd be looking for ancient artifacts, but also I'm trying to get them or stuff like
Are you my fence?
Did we put a name to?
We established a fence, yeah, but
Oh right, yeah, the Dark Trader fence. I mean,
who they?
a thief is gonna Dathu Katu was the one we had for your dock trader and fence.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, surely a thief is going to have multiple sources for that
Absolutely.
kind of thing, right? Um. So, are you keeping a shop, or are you like a
Really like, well, it's a good question.
'cause, I mean, if
I
you're
wouldn't say I would have a shop,
okay,
but
because if you're
I
thinking along the term, like, I don't know, for lack of a better example, like Indiana Jones or something, where you're like seeking out artifacts and stuff, like maybe that's more leaning in that academic direction. Depending upon where you wanted to sort of be specifically in that regard.
yeah, hard to, because like I don't know if I would want to mask it as trade or um
Mm,
use it as um academic work or not, because
okay.
if it was academic, people would want me to bring things to museums, but I don't necessarily want to do that.
Sure, sure, sure. Um, yeah, interesting.
Indiana Jones is his personal in, stanch philosophy, because a lot of people like to have private collections, but Indiana Jones is totally against stuff like that.
Right. So you're Indiana Jones if he was a proponent of private collections. I mean, so is it that kind of collector angle that you're looking at then?
Think so.
Okay.
That would probably make the most sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm content to stick with trade in there. I mean, again, it's sort of depending upon the exact kind of channels you would want to be working in, like whether you're trying to look to buy these things off of people, or uh, you know, whatever. But um,
Like if I was more in the trade area of industry, be more likely to get um, a good idea of who has things that are not necessarily legal, or
totally,
if they
yeah,
knew if I was a historian or something, they wouldn't be like offering me things that they may have stolen from a museum.
yeah. No, that makes sense. That you have as a being more in a trade channel, you have access to um, different. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, what is I was trying to think of how to. Is esoterica a thing? Or is that talking about? Let's see. Why don't we just say for now? Uh, that you're so we can go trade esoteric collector. Does that sound reasonable? A reasonable
Yeah,
summation of that?
that sounds about right.
Okay, cool. All right. Okay, so then, so we get to our action dots. So if you look over at the right side of the character sheet, you've got insight, prowess, resolve, and then the 4 things under each of those. So I think in the I think in the player kit, there's somewhere that Colin, maybe you can help me remember where this is. There's a spot where it talks about those actions, or maybe that was just in the rule book. Oh, there you go. So if you go to page 26 of the player kit. They've got a list of all the actions there, so attune, command, consort, finesse, etc., through to tinker and wreck. If you, yeah. So the couple things to say about these action ratings or whatever is, for one, they're intended to be a little bit vague in terms of having a little bit of bleed over between certain ones. So that's, I mean, depending upon what your character is doing in any given situation, you as the player get to decide what you're rolling. It's then just my job as the GM to say like, oh, you can roll that as opposed to this, but that might be not as effective. Those sorts of things. So there's some wiggle room in terms of how that works. And then the reason the sort of the buckets of insight, prowess, and resolve are important is when we get to what are called resistance rolls, where if something, I should say, when something bad happens to the character, you can choose to resist the consequences of that, and you would do those with the three big I forget what they call them. Attributes, which is insight, prowess, and resolve. So you would look. So, for instance, if you were to do a resist roll with resolve right now, you have you count how many of that first dot you have in that category, and that's how many dice you roll. So if you were to do a resolve resist right now, you would roll 2d6 because you have one in consort and at least one in sway. So there's some advantage to being able to have spread like that, while at the same time also being able to be specialized in specific things and be able to roll better on individual rolls. So for the character creation here, we can only go up to 2 dots in any given action. But right now you get to place, so you already have by being a slide by default, you get 1 in consort and 2 in sway. And now we get to add 4 more of your choice. So they say that you want to do 1 dot that represents your heritage, 1 that represents your background, and then 2 others wherever you like. So based on how you're thinking about this character, what kinds of actions are you looking at or interested in putting some points into here?
I expect that would be pretty intimidating, so I think command is a pretty good one.
Okay. Okay. Can make so command. Anything else?
Really sway because of the. Well,
Yeah, so sway is you have the 2 dots in already, so we can't go any higher than that than you already are. So you're good there.
All right.
Aside from that, I mean, depending upon exactly what direction you want to go with the character, I think ones to look at, like study might not be a bad one to think about.
We're looking at the resolve section.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we'll have 4 dots that we can put in any of these. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say study might be one to look at. Potentially tinker too, especially if you're talking about um, looking at artifacts and being able to know or figure out how they work, that kind of stuff. Um, what else was I just looking at? Oh, but potentially a tune as well. I mean that's like I said, sort of the magic stuff is a little bit different here, but um,
I was about to ask, what drives your curiosity, your desire to collect, and am I allowed to know it?
I think that might fall into the latter. Um, just
Of course,
looking
my
at.
customers who um, would would be uh, the people that I sell to. I
Uh,
have a variety of very eccentric customers,
mm-hmm.
let's say.
So is that
Um. Oh, sorry. Say that again. I lost you a little bit there.
pride or greed then?
I mean, yeah, that's an interesting distinction potentially. Um. Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
depends.
Something closer to pride, I'd say.
your pit, but
Sorry, I was talking over you.
that's fine. I don't think it's relevant.
Okay, so. Okay, so you said command. Um.
I
Is
want to
one
take
you.
command back, but since we've already got so many in that section,
Okay.
um, uh, we already maybe finesse and probably tinker, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I mean, if you're supposed to plan for your background and your background is trade, consort. Well, okay. I guess I don't know necessarily what sort of things you trade. Are you trading devices or are you trading books or trinkets or?
probably a variety of any of those.
Yeah,
But
I
I do
mean,
have consort already.
yeah. Well, you can put a second dot in any one of these if you want to as one of your four. I mean, you already have that second dot in sway, so you can't do that. Um, but you are allowed to put up to two in anything if you want to specialize that a little bit more. But I could also see like study or attune being um, uh, relating to your background here as well.
Thinking probably study because I would want to be able to um, look at history and stuff and find
Mm-hmm.
where things have been mentioned.
Yeah, totally.
Um, and then also, I'd probably be on the shelf between hunt and attune because hunting is pretty similar to studying, I guess, in my situation.
Yeah, in mechanically, at least in this system, when they're talking about hunting, they're usually talking about like tracking in the sense of like as a hunter and also like ranged combat. So
Gotcha. Okay, so then probably a 2.
okay, cool. So that's our 4, right? Yeah, great. Okay, let me get back to this page. So then we're going to special abilities. So this is down a little lower on the left side. There's the big gray block that says special abilities. So you get to pick one of these, and they say the first one on the list is there for a reason. It's generally a good sort of default option. But depending upon how you want to think about the character, we can look into anything on the list, and anything that deals with magic, we can sort of adapt for our purposes as needed. So, because the animancy stuff that we talked about is still a thing, and as an Faith, you know have a kind of a natural propensity for it. So we can sort of adapt any of these as a potential use of that, you know, specialized animancy or something like that. So, anything on that list jumping out at you here?
A lot of them look good.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to...
So I think trying to remember. Excuse me. I guess I can just go look at what we had. At what the spells we had last time. So the 2 spells you took last time was illusion and abjuration, which you could put a ward on something, sort of like a protective or like a boundary kind of a thing. So if you're still interested in those types of things, I mean, like Cloak and Dagger there is a nice analog for that kind of illusion thing that we were doing.
Not sure if that's how I was wanting to use illusions
Oh,
on myself
okay.
or on other things or what. I can't remember exactly.
So what are some of the
I guess I'm looking at mesmerism and looking into a mirror. Probably one of those 2.
okay. Yeah, I mean, I could see both of them being fun and useful.
I mean, when you talk about your hundreds of years of experience with social interaction, look to a mirror sounds quite
Sure.
spot on. I've been lied to so many times.
Yeah, that's probably the best.
Okay. So we'll take looking into a mirror. Special ability. Okay, so now we get into a friend and a rival. So there's the box down on the sort of bottomish right there that says Sly Friends. So again, these are obviously things that will adapt for our setting, but they can give you some ideas in terms of the type of person, of people that you might be interested. So so one of these is going to be a friend, so a close friend, longtime ally, family relation, or lover. And one of these is going to be a rival, an enemy, a scorned lover, betrayed partner, etc. And I'm also totally content to make up things beyond this suggested list here. If you have any ideas, we can. For everyone else, we've done so far, we were kind of making people up, and creating little mini characters as we were doing this, which was kind of fun. So.
Have an extravagant an eccentric dude who likes to collect things, as would be a friend I would have. But maybe someone who also has ins, like they would know people who would know things or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of direction are you thinking of with that type of line here? Like, for instance, they have a tavern owner, so that's like a person who knows people and hears things. Or are you thinking of like some kind of academic person, or some kind of black market something or other?
Yeah, like maybe like a black market librarian or something, or like a bookshop owner or something like that.
Okay,
Maybe
that's
like maybe who they?
that would be.
My vice
That was your
purveyor.
vice purveyor, right. um,
It would also make sense to me if your regular buyer were like a noble who could, or the equivalent thereof, somebody highly placed with lots of power, um, for whom you essentially their vice purveyor, and you get high-end tidbits from them.
Good idea.
yeah, that's an interesting option too.
Not to metagame it too much, but since my connections are going to be rather, it would be complimentary to have somebody with high world connections.
Mm-hmm. Sure. That's definitely true. I would imagine, unless we're changing. Well, I guess I don't know. I could also see Chayla having some share of
True.
higher class connections, like you're saying. But I don't know. We haven't gotten to her character yet, so. So what are you thinking?
You get one friend and one enemy.
Correct.
My underground black market dude could also be like a fancy black market dude that also sells to the
Yeah, sure.
powerful people who want to do illegal things too.
Totally. Why do I feel like there's an example from like a movie or something that I could pick right out of it, but I can't think of what that might be. But yeah, someone who sort of runs in higher circles and deals in slightly shady things. What would you call that kind of a person?
Have you read Mistborn series?
I have, yes.
Quasi?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm in era 2. Don't spoil that.
Was there someone you were thinking of from there?
Oh, in the second book, there's a fancy pants informant.
Why can I not remember who that is?
Person of interest.
What's that?
Person of interest.
Person of interest? As like the title for...
The
No,
TV show.
the show. Like
Oh.
Finch.
He just knows a lot about a bunch of famous people and can trade. She kind of pretty much trades to keep their secrets for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Okay.
good character.
What was that? How far into the show was that character?
A couple seasons in, I think.
Okay, I might have bailed before I got to that then. Because I remember watching the beginning of that show, but I
Stick
don't
with it.
know.
It's so good.
Okay, so I guess we still need to figure out what to call that. So I don't know, like I don't know, like calling it like an information broker is quite
It's a good one.
Sure, or even just a broker, you know,
just a broker,
a
Affluent broker.
like a high
or
class
a
broker.
black market broker.
Yeah, let's do that. So now we need to figure out who this is. Let's see. I can pop a link here in the Roll20 chat. This is to the World Anvil page that'll have the races on it, sentient races. I don't know how many of these you remember, but let's pick one of these for this person to be. I'm just trying to think where they would be kind of like faction adjacent, if at all.
Probably something high class, but something you don't have to be born into.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe this is something that's sort of in the orbit of like the Academy for Applied Animantic Endeavors. Yeah, I mean, there's a handful of or maybe someone in the orbit of the bureaucracy of the fasting clasp or something. So let's see, if we're thinking of high-ish class, that probably precludes Pokken and Corton Jewel, I would say. And Faith and Kobeshi are extremely rare, and we do already have a couple characters of that, so probably we should avoid them unless you're super attached to that. Which would leave us with Barbalish, Hothenboren, and Velmiri, and Human. As far as races go. Any ideas on that front?
On you.
What's that?
This is on you. I wouldn't know the best.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is sort of part of the I think the fun of collaborative creation here. So if you have any ideas on any of this, I'm more than welcome to hear any opinions.
This person kind of feels human.
You think so?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, they're fairly ubiquitous, yes, but not. Well, humans are well represented in the upper classes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I'm on board with that. Does that sound like does that sound good to you, Quasi?
Good to me.
Cool. All right. Let me pop this in. This is my document of some name lists. Can take a look at that. See if any of
Found
those.
in person of interest, her name's Zoe Morgan, and they call her a fixer.
A fixer. Ah, okay. So do we want to use fixer instead of broker? Or do we want to stick with broker?
Like broker a little better.
Broker, okay.
Gives you a little more trade than
Sure. Yeah. So if you look at the name lists there, any of those human names look interesting to you for this?
Is this person male or female?
Any I'll let you pick that, Quasi. Male or female?
female, I guess.
Okay.
What's the slide? Is it just under the slide friends that all those names in there?
Oh, sorry. I put a link to it's a Google Doc. Google Doc. I put a link in the chat there. In
Okay.
Roll20. There's the human section there at the top. Any of those sound right to you?
Like Nayla.
Is it number 10 there?
Nayla.
How what do you think? I'll give you the definitive pronunciation on that. Nayla? Okay. I'll try to remember that. Okay, great. So that's our friend, right? Or is that your rival? What were you thinking?
I thought this was.
We were talking friend here, right? Or ally?
Yes.
Contact. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Okay. Any ideas for rivals?
An Indiana Jones type.
Yeah, like an academic. That would make so much sense. All right. Let's see. How about this person? Why don't we have this person be a barblish? I think that would fit nicely with that. Male or female? Was that you? Did you say something? It's not really, sort of. It's pretty, getting you pretty distorted and muted.
Yeah.
Oh.
Any better?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay. Probably male.
Male, okay. We did have... Who was the, Colin, didn't we have a Barblish that we used for you somewhere? Or did we
Welcome, Dela.
change that? Oh, hello.
Sorry.
Hello.
I was muted.
Oh, did we have a Barblish that you were?
I think I had my adversary was a Pokken, and my friend was a Hothenboren.
And your vice purveyor was
Right?
Kobeshi. Yeah, because I could have sworn we used a Barblish name for you somewhere.
Let me look at your Barblish names.
Because I feel like I remember using Riloloris, but maybe we.
Not with me.
No.
No.
Oh, maybe it was. Maybe I'm thinking with Skjelt then. It's with skill. Okay. So I did use that one. Great. Okay. Quasi, any of those Barblish names look good to you? They're all long and fun.
Omulenolef. Number 5.
Oh, Millennialef? Okay. Nice. Millennialef. So what do we want to call that? An academic... I don't know. How would you describe Indiana Jones in, like, 3 words?
An academic adventurer.
I would describe him as academic Indiana Jones.
I suppose, yeah. Academic adventure is probably a good way to say it. Great. That's that. Friend right. Okay, so now we get to choose your vice. So if you're looking at page 2 in the player kit here, they've got a list on the right side of the page of the I can't count 7 vices. So mechanically, the way vices work is basically your during downtime. It's your way to relieve stress that you accrue during the course of missions, which is like your. It's a type of kind of damage analog, basically, but not really. So calling it vice is a weird way to say it, I think, a little bit, but it's
Your preferred recreation.
Your preferred what?
Recreation.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. So you've got faith, gambling, luxury, obligation, pleasure, stupor, and weird. Let me find the book here.
Yeah, obligation seems like it fits my character most.
Okay. All right, so maybe we'll talk about that later then. If you're
Secrets.
if you're saying what I think you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll
great.
believe that.
for later. Yeah, because we'll want to go. We'll talk about who specifically you're going to fulfill that or to indulge that vice. Vice. Okay. So do we want to stick? So then we're on name, alias, and look. Do we want to stick with Thalvoama here?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Do you have an alias?
Guess that could be handy, but I don't know.
Well, I guess if you think of anything, let me know.
Well, I'm gonna give away that my race generally.
Yes, your race will go in your look.
The name.
The in faith.
Yeah, would I mean not a lot of. I don't know if a lot of people would trade with someone like me just because they're uncomfortable because I'm not very typical.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
maybe
in faith are relatively rare. So but it's there are at least like the basically the leader of the Fasten Clasp is in faith. And there so it's yeah, it's not something that like people would like look at you and be like, what are you? I don't know what you are, kind of a thing. There's some amount of recognition, but I think there could be that element of like, you know, prejudice, fear, whatever for something that people are not used to. So,
But
I wonder if that would be beneficial or detrimental to my line of work.
I think that would depend on what circles you're in. Yeah, I mean, I think that could go either way. Because someone might look at you and think you're some weird, scary thing that they are unfamiliar with, or some other person might look at you and see some like fascinating, exotic something or other that they're not familiar with.
I suppose it just being intimidating is probably handy for my the way that I'm working through, I guess.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I guess I don't really need a pseudonym or alias.
Yeah, I mean, I think that whatever you're. I mean, if you don't have any, yeah, I don't know what I was saying, but sure. So let's. So the last thing is the look. So we can just port over some of the things that you had. So for the other one, you had sharp eyes, slightly tarnished copper metals, intriguing robe, creepy body. How did I write this for other people? Yeah, okay. So I'll put in these slightly tarnished copper metals. I think were you still interested in that that tack we were talking about in terms of like the way you dress being kind of odd and strange for what people are used to here?
Yeah, I think so. I think I like that.
Cool. All right, and I think that's everything. So we'll catch up on the last couple bits outside. Any other questions or anything? Does that all make sense?
I think that's good.
Cool deal. And then once we finish everybody else up, I think we've got two more to do. We'll talk about what crew we want to do. Because that's a whole sort of separate. Your whole crew gets a sheet for themselves, and you get to pick what kind of crew you want to be, and that's fun. So, we'll be in touch about any of that. Cool deal. All right, so let's jump back over to our map drawing. All right, well, you're welcome to hang around if you like, or you can jump. We're just doing some general talking about the city and drawing districts and maps and stuff like that.
Maybe.
Okay. Where did we leave off? We were talking about the Knights of the Holy Ground, right? That sounds right. Yeah, so I'm kind of interested in the idea that they sort of used to have this. Can't really see these lines very well. Here we go. That the knights like used to have this whole section here, as well as their little sacred ground on the head there, but have since kind of backed into just this area, and the head. As they've, like I said, they've sort of lost influence. So then, yeah, that interesting question becomes what sort of filled in this space then. Whether that's just like another, like newer, redeveloped part of the, like a residential or commercial or something, part of the city that's come up since then.
It's to me like you had a list up before of your factions.
Yes. I'll pull that back up here.
The fastened clasp, I know they're judicial and banking. They also trade.
So the kind of the other factions that are sort of umbrellaed by the Fasten Clasp are definitely the Iker Supply Guild, the Calm for People's Justice, and the Bank, which I don't have named yet.
I feel like you've established that the Fastened Clasp is recently grown.
Sure.
Or, relatively so. I'm inclined to think that they took over that area, ports and banks and shops and stalls. It sort of makes sense to me. Either that or the Iker Supply Guild want some of that space around the Viridian.
The Defile.
Defile.
Yeah, totally. I could see that. So maybe that section got sort of divided up a little bit more.
I mean, that certainly seems realistic.
In the wake of that, so like if the man, I'm bad at drawing straight lines.
That's all right, sword kitties.
So if like the the Iker sort of moves in, takes over this part, and then maybe the Fasten Clasp or something sort of moves into this. I think it could also be interesting to do a like a
Or a slum.
or it could be a slum. Yeah, I don't know, because I'm trying to think in terms of it. It kind of seems like the more important places in the city are tending to end up in these sort of upper sections here. So I wonder if
I mean, that makes sense to me.
yeah,
That it would.
that's sort of centralized like that. So maybe it's a kind of thing
Yeah.
where like the territory gets like purposefully like redeveloped, so it turns into like a swanky new neighborhood kind of a thing. Or something like along those lines. There's definitely a bunch of options.
Well, it would be a benefit to living there if you're. I mean, if by neighborhood you mean residential area.
Yeah.
There, the particular draw to living in that area. I mean, do you live right next to the knights or right next to like what's what makes that
I mean, aside
feel like
from
you live?
sort of being in that like, you know, quote unquote nicer half of the city or whatever.
Just proximity to power and the age of it.
Yeah.
I mean, what sort of what was it when the knights owned it?
That's a good question. Let me see if we. I'm trying to remember what that was. I feel like that was some kind of like cooperative, something or other. Dayla, are you still in here?
I am.
Do you are you watching the stream that I have up here?
I'm not, but I
Okay.
could be.
So I'm looking back at our quiet year map here, and I'm trying to remember some of the things that were on it.
Yeah, are you on the? Are you on live now?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Hold on. Let me pull this up. Okay. Which? Oh, right.
Yeah. This.
Okay. Yeah. Which part?
I'm trying to remember this section up here. What this was.
The green part.
As I vaguely remember some kind of like cooperative thing, maybe between the government people and the knights.
Because didn't somebody get somebody important? Oh wait. Who was the? Wasn't there a woman who was a knight and something was going on up there? Fuck, dude, it's been so long since we did
That's
the
what I
quiet
know,
year.
right?
Dan, why didn't you keep notes?
I like that was more than anything else that we've done. That was like one of the things that I really wish we had like recorded or whatever, because there's just so much information there. Yeah, well, there was the Biani, one of the Night Protector. She
I
was
remember taking her name. Yes.
yeah, she was like the adoptive like mother of Kavenali, the Enfei that was the one that sort of ran
Yeah, wow, we really should have recorded this one.
The
because
populous people who turned into the Fasten Clasp.
I certainly didn't write anything down. Um, I I think maybe we just used that to denote that was maybe you know who would remember is fucking Eric.
Probably, yeah. Maybe I should ask him.
I genuinely think he would remember because he came up with all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I don't remember anything specific about that, like
yeah.
green. Other than like the crown and the sword. I definitely remember those.
I remember
And
the sword. What was the crown?
The crown part, wasn't that to denote that was where the knights that was literally just to denote that that's where the knights
That's where the knights
stayed,
were. That's where
they were located in the city. Yeah.
Okay.
We were just like, this is clearly the most important part of this city. We need to put a crown here.
So yeah, I mean, I guess trying to think about what that territory could have been used for by the knights. I mean, I guess thinking back into
Well, the palace, or like, not, I don't know if we would call it palace, but
the
like
was
the big,
was this,
huge,
yeah.
it was definitely that big area up north. Was like that was where like or wait, wasn't there a church up there too?
The church, well, their like holy place for the knights was up here, because
Okay.
this is the Pope that came to visit.
That's right. That's right. The Pope.
And then left.
I forgot. Yeah, we did a lot of shit with this.
You did a lot.
Don't even remember half of it.
I
would definitely say ask Eric. I think he really would.
Okay.
Remember.
All right. Well, this sword was that they were, because we have the abundance of weaponry. So this is where they're like not factories, but where they were their production facilities and stuff. Yeah. So that would kind of end up, I guess, around here-ish on the new map.
So that's where you're thinking the blacksmiths and the various industry is.
Probably, yeah. This is probably a big center for that.
It's not too dirty near all these rich, fancy, important people.
I mean, the city is very big, so and they'd be outside the wall of this kind of main keep area. Or maybe it's the kind of thing that, this started as an area of production and turned into a more like mercantile or like fine crafts, like artisan craftsman kind of thing, and most of the like heavy production sort of moved, down here somewhere.
Right, somewhere cheaper. So the Knights are a martial organization, right? They
correct.
Would need barracks.
And that's mostly the kind of stuff that would be in this area out here, because this is their sort of like holy ground.
Yeah,
maybe
so
that's what the green was supposed to denote.
That could be, yeah.
I genuinely don't know. But I
mean, if they're
definitely know
not,
that's where they were all supposed to be located, was because of the crown there. So we were like, what fucking denotes knights? I don't know. A crown? That's as close as we could. We really should have kept better notes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they were parade grounds and quartermaster tents and all that sort of stuff, and it doesn't sound like it would be... Excuse me. it's not like whoever took it over just move in. They would have to build something.
Right, and that's what I mean by sort of like having it be redeveloped kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So
Well,
they're, building inside.
I was kind of
their-
hoping you would you would have buildings with an established purpose would need to either be repurposed or torn down, but
Mhm.
it's pretty open.
Yeah, I mean, there could be. So I mean, like going back to some of like the like the Jedi analog, like what would they need territory for outside of like their main temple, or do they even have any to Star Wars?
Well, I mean, their massive hologram library,
Oh, sure.
archives, and do they have scribes, scrivener services, and like that, or is that under somebody else's umbrella?
I mean, I think since I don't have a dedicated faction for that, I feel like probably most of those groups would have their own kind of in-house groups.
Hmm.
Um,
You did say that there's an academic group, um, although that's mainly anime.
Animancy, yeah. Which is the magic, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, I could imagine that kind of stuff. Some of those types of things, maybe some smaller like public use, quote unquote churches or whatever. Um,
So did they lose this territory or did they sell this territory?
probably more along the lines of the latter, I would say.
Okay,
Um,
then I could definitely see people moving and building their fine mansions in that area, and because
mhm.
it was previously fairly empty and it's near the seat tower. It's an opportunity to throw up a grand building
Yeah,
in an
totally.
area otherwise would be rather crowded.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like a big section of real estate opening up in like Center City or something.
Right.
All of a sudden, yeah, people with the most money are going to be the ones to swoop in on
All of a
that.
sudden, Central Park were for sale.
Right,
Get
yeah,
up until New York.
exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. That's fun and interesting. Uh, cool. So then, let me look at my. Okay, so we did have these two. These were our like escape pads, right, Dela?
Yeah, I think that's why we denoted we'd like tried to make it look like a helicopter
Mhm.
pad for some reason. Again, this was what over a year ago now.
At least,
I mean,
yeah, because there were people who were freaked out enough by the whole the psi thing,
oh yeah, yeah,
which is what this big exclamation point in the middle was.
uh-huh, for sure.
That people were like, "Hey, we need to be ready to get out of here if we need
Yes,
to."
I forgot all about that. Wasn't that one of the projects that like it was like the one of the only things that like people actually kind of came together on was like,
Oh, that
yeah,
could have been,
maybe we
yeah.
should have an escape plan for this city.
So for that, I think then it would make sense to have, um, basically to have two big, like, shipyards more or less in roughly those locations. Um, and if we're talking about that being, kind of here-ish, that's a good spot for, trade out of the city for, some of the fasting class people up here, sort of closest to some of the agriculture if need be. Um, So you have this. This would probably be like your nicer one, and this is your.
So that's a big port essentially.
Yeah. I think that's a reasonable thing for that to kind of turn into.
Mm-hmm. Sure, and maybe the northern one is more of the fancy people and fine goods, and
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and the southern one is industrial product.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Let's scratch out some territory for that. Ooh, I'm not happy with that line at all. So this can be our, I'll just write in docs. Just make some notes for myself. Fancy. Clasp. Baker.
So it sounds like that's where my what's his name? Dathu
Dathukatu?
operates.
So out of the nicer one?
Yeah, I'm not stealing bread. I'm stealing tools.
That's true. Yeah. That makes sense. And then... So this can be... Here. Our old... sort of old factory turned into artisan stuff. Which I think, well, let's see. I think is a fine place for the bread makers to be. So then there's this district neighborhood or whatever up here that I don't know exactly what that is, but
Well, where are your bankers and judges?
bankers and judges would be class people over here. So I mean, we did have them originally down here, but I think they're
Oh, I see. Clasp.
but
Okay.
I think they're being moved up to clasp town. And maybe I'll divide some of that up, or maybe add another one down here for individual. I mean, obviously, this being as huge as it is, I'm thinking of this as very broad territory wise. Like it's so within any given district here, there's plenty of little other residential things and whatnot, but
Pull a faction list again.
factions.
Maybe your academy could go there.
I was actually going to put the academy down right in here because they want to be close to the grove. So I was going to have them sort of down on this step out here.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
Sort of in the grove a little bit. Which
maybe your embassy, various embassies, sort of.
ooh, yeah. That would make a lot of sense because particularly like the trade, the consulate for the Third Shoulder Trade Community would want to be close to the docks, for sure.
Mhm. And all of your diplomats are going to want to have close access to the Iron Scabbard.
Totally. That's going to be probably a relatively small area, right? Especially in a place that has quasi-fascistic tendencies. They're not going to give a ton of space or whatever to.
I mean, depends on how much they like them.
Fair.
They're trying to appear generous and cooperative.
Mm-hmm. There's also only so many other places that they would have embassies for and whatnot. So, cool.
Oh, that's fair. not a dense world.
Not a dense world. Okay. Yeah, I do like the way this is turning into sort of like a nice part of the city, not nice part of the city. That is neat. Okay. Let's see.
And maybe that leftover bit up there is the old nice part of town, not so nice anymore.
Okay.
The richest people have moved over to the
new fancy.
Yeah.
Old fancy. Cool. And then I think we're gonna have this section in here. That's gonna be like the dedicated Navy yards. Because the Navy is a big part of their military deal.
Is that ship building or birth? Or yes?
Probably yes.
Well, that definitely would have been an Eric thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know. Yeah, I guess we had this little ship here. So maybe that's... Well, we'll shift it around. Because it probably makes sense to be adjacent to the normal docks.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. Alright, I can fill some more into that, but... So then, this was the big tree we had for the big festival thing. So I wonder if we want to put in some kind of like park-ish section.
Wasn't it a fancy tree? Oh no, wait! All the fancy trees are outside the city, aren't they?
These fancy trees over here. Is those the ones you're talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
This was the one that they had the big. It was originally a Knights of the Holy Ground festival thing. It was like a. Where I have names written for these things. the Vigil of Flame and the Festival of Growth.
Well, that super narrows it down.
Yes. So the Vigil of Flame being like the part of the festival that was like, you know, the sort of the night before, where, you know, that you're remembering all the people that have died and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which also, I forget exactly what the timeline was, but after the dark ritual thing, the vigil definitely lines up with however often the mall lights up and the little like dead or the baby Toberon dying thing happens. That freaks everybody out. And then with the dawn of the next day, it's like the whatever I said the other part of it is, the Festival of Growth, where they celebrate being alive and stuff.
So it sounds a lot like a fairground or a
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's yeah, fairground kind of park ish thing. And I think that also sort of makes sense to be, you know, like one of those things you see soon after entering a city, to put a nice foot forward like that. Well, let's see. To keep from being too Central Parky, let's have it lollipop a little bit here.
So would your traveling market be set up here, or is it too sacred for that sort of a thing?
I think I think it could be big enough that there's room for both.
Okay.
Chris, are you still in here? Do you remember that your best friend in the whole game was a talking squirrel?
I remember
best
that.
friend. That's my best friend in the game. We're drinking buddies. He saved me.
Doesn't his character not like you?
It's
Well, my
not true.
character likes everybody but Iridia.
Nobody likes Iridia.
I mean,
That's
that's
true.
yeah.
Nobody likes Maria.
So this is where we found the two relics. One of which is what turned into the swords here. So I think this is nice to have some kind of like ruins outside the gates here. In those two spots. Then other than that, the only other big thing we have was this was where the cult set up. Did they like
Oh God, the cult.
the cult? Yeah, the
Oh
cult.
fuck.
The cult's still a thing, and they have a cool name now. They're the Circle of the Sundered Veil.
Of course, it's not just like the cult. No, it's
Did somebody jump off the tower like into the mall? Is that a thing that happened at some point?
yeah. Well, and they also tried to do a whole ritual there. That's what some of
Yeah.
that green shit was
Yeah, they poured the
did a
Toberon
whole-
blood into the hole, and
and then they tried to sacrifice a bunch of people, and then
Oh, I forgot they tried to sacrifice people. Did they try to throw people into the mall? Is that what they were doing?
I think so.
That
They were
sounds right.
also. I think they also pulled. I think there was maybe like a mass suicide thing as well that they had done. The cult was pretty.
Is that what the rip is for? The little tombstone here?
I believe that's. Yeah.
What was
I just wanted to make sure all their bases were covered.
Yep.
Yeah, right. So I remember this was the very nicely drawn because the leader of the cult was a Cortangel, which is our little lizard centaur guy here. I'm not sure I remember what this was though.
Hold on. I closed the. My
Oh,
computer
was that the guy?
with the shit.
There was a kid who was in the cult that went by. What did he go by like Mouse or something?
No, that was the kid. Mouse was the kid who found. Wasn't that the kid who literally
Oh, the kid who found the baby Toberon.
Yeah. He like his friend like dared him to go down there and he did, and
Because I know I have in my because I did write some sort of like post notes here.
oh, and then that building with the X on it near the rip.
Yeah.
That was like their like hideout. But
Oh,
now
okay.
it's like a bunch of people like died there, or the guards went and cleared it out or something, and now it's like empty, I think.
Derelict. That's definitely the spookiest part of the city.
Yes.
I mean, nobody wants to live right next to the mall when it explodes every month or whatever it does anymore either. So, where was my notes on this guy? Mouse, who had been disfigured by the dark ritual. Yeah, because I post our game, I decided that he went by Badger now, and was in. He was a member of the. Well, I guess what we're now calling the
Cult
Academy.
with the longest name ever.
The Academy for Applied Animantic Endeavors.
Oh.
So he's part of the Animancy like group now. But he was, whether he was involved with the cult or not, I think he was.
I think they tried. Well, maybe
or
they
maybe he
to
tried to
sacrifice
kill him. Because I have it written he was disfigured by the dark ritual.
Yeah, I think
so.
I vaguely remember them being like, "Oh, well, the kid was the one who found him, so now we have to, I don't know, kill him or something." I can't remember.
Yeah, Marshal
was
Abana
all-
leads a
all
relatively
sorts of weird
small
cult shit.
force of elite animancers for the Unersheathed. Among them is a young man who goes by Badger, though he used to be known as Mouse, who had been disfigured by the dark ritual but has become a very capable animancer with a few extra tricks due to his animantic aberrations from the ritual.
Of course. Why not, right?
So he's a
I mean, they made laser swords. It would probably make animancy crazy. So.
Well, that was the knights that made the swords.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I know I did like a deep dive on some really like kind of messed up lore for those after the fact too, which I had a lot of fun with. Okay, so that then this district around particularly like this area, we'll say. Around the mall here is Spooky Town. And nobody wants to live there. But I guess some people have to. Do we think since the cult is still around, do we think the cult stayed in this area or did they move somewhere else?
I think a lot of them had gotten killed off, and that they ended up moving moving to a different place.
Just
Because I
to
think
sort
the
of.
knights had like gone in and like cleared them out because
Oh yeah.
people were like, "Are you fucking kidding me? There's a cult and they're killing people and you're just what are you doing?" Like
And I guess that was part of the reason why nobody likes the Knights anymore. Because now the part of the Knights, job in the city now is definitely to deal with the cult. So this
So
is
spooky town, nobody wants to live there.
spooky town, but not necessarily where the cult operates out of anymore. Spooky town.
I mean, are there remnants, like underground pockets of, like if you wander around, somebody might snag you and throw you into the maw?
Maybe. I mean, I still have the Circle of the Sundered Veil as a tier 3 faction, so they're not insignificant.
I mean, yeah. Religions are hard to snuff out. Ask
True.
any genocidal dictator.
Yeah, that's. Speaking of religions, so there's a small. I would say so. There is a small contingent of straight Order of the Holy Ground people. I wonder if they would stay close to the Knights or if they would try and distance themselves.
So the knights are an offshoot, are like a splinter.
Yeah, basically.
Um, did they splinter from the already established order here, or did they arrive already splintered?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have a canonical answer to that yet. So I think the only information we have here is that the Order of the Holy Ground, the Order, not the Knights, just the Order Pope came and visited.
But he visited the knights. He didn't visit the order.
He visited the Knights. Yes, that is correct. So if
Really visit,
anything,
or was it for a purpose?
I'm not sure. Do you remember anything about that, Dalo?
Pope. Pope visiting, is that
The
what you're
Pope
asking?
visiting, yeah.
It was either for the swords or it was because wasn't there some infighting because the adopted daughter of the most important knight was the rebel leader?
Yeah. And so they weren't super happy about that, the rest of them weren't.
Yeah. And there was like a big like split between well they've got a point or no they're just a bunch of rebels.
Yeah.
I can't remember why the Pope turned. I think that was also an Eric thing. I think Eric came up with the Pope thing, so.
And then the Pope, because then the Pope did leave.
Yes.
I'm trying to remember if he like just left because it was time to go, or if he left because he was unhappy.
No, I don't remember there being like a. I don't remember the Pope like leaving and not and being like curse this city or something like that.
Okay. Okay, so maybe there's still some manner of relation between the Knights and the Order. But I think the Knights being relatively unpopular here now, I think could be cause for the Order to be trying to be their own thing. like to be appealing to people on their own merits apart from the knights. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm wondering, like, should their area have once touched, been in connected to the knights, and the knights receding separated, or how tall is this tree? Would they have been near the tree?
Oh, that could be.
Like,
So
they could
maybe
have their.
I mean, so maybe they were in what became Fancy Town, and they were part of that like territory that got ceded.
Oh, and then they had to move,
Yeah.
maybe. I was more thinking that you could give up part of the docks to make their territory, to make their area, and so there is now space between them where once touch,
I see what you're saying. Okay. Or
and like maybe
take some part of the I mean, because they're
though it could make sense that they got swept up in the fall of the night, so had to find a place to set up.
yeah. Or I mean, or yeah, whether they got forcibly, like whether they had to move or whether they chose to move.
Mm-hmm. Like we're done associating with you. We're gonna.
Right, we're gonna do our own thing.
You said that there wasn't a particularly antagonistic end.
Not to the Pope visit anyway. I don't think.
Mm-hmm.
But within the past, 5 to 6 years or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
things might have changed a little bit. They're also I only have them listed as a tier 1 faction, so they're not a big deal either. So whether they're like just trying to get a foothold or what. Okay.
Yeah, maybe you could give, if they're particularly small, maybe you could give them a tiny chunk of that clasp section, or a tiny chunk of docks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or I don't
mean,
I don't hate
sense.
the idea of them being close to those festival grounds either. I think
Yeah.
that's interesting.
It makes sense to me that the docks touch the now ichor mining area,
Totally.
because they're going to want that connection.
Access to shipping and stuff, yeah.
So it could be that, their territory was there and it got ceded for the purposes of commerce.
Yeah, I think I like having them be down by these festival grounds here. Then I'll give them a little tiny chunk here off the corner of this. I'm so glad that this turned into just like a however long stream of just watching me draw straight lines badly. Oh. Alright, so that is order. And then the only other religious group I had was Inuket's Sanctuary. So those are people who are all about the river. eat a cat. Um. So I wonder, maybe I tuck them in here,
Well,
or
surely they're old enough to live on the ground, aren't they?
maybe. Maybe they just have like a little, uh, like a small base presence here in the city, and then have other people down out in the grove and stuff.
So there's access down. I mean, it looks like the academy is outside the city walls, right?
Correct.
Access up and down that side of the beast.
There's um
And I don't imagine you have to walk out the front gates and all the way around head to get there.
this is a lot. Well, so there is this right here is like a big like mill like lift system.
Hmm.
So that would be, I would imagine that would be the access. Cuz this is like here is still so like this is the back, so back level, right? Comes down to here, comes down to here, comes down to this sort of plateau here, and then falls off around here. So this would still be pretty steep access and everything like that. So this is still reasonably high off of ground level.
Okay.
So then maybe I'm just drawing in some buildings here for the academy. So then maybe the sanctuary people are like reasonably well involved with the agriculture people, especially since the relationship with the agriculture and the sort of bringing up the river into the
Yeah,
irrigation and stuff.
that makes a lot of sense.
Which having a decent relationship with them would maybe then give their their priests and pilgrims or whatever access through the lifts to get down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like they should be close by, which would put them out, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Or maybe they have. I don't know. It depends on the.
Maybe they're right inside a gate, or right over a bridge.
Yeah, like in the bridges section there. Maybe. It's yeah. I mean, I think it depends on. It depends a little bit on the nature of the religion too. Which honestly I don't really have too many ideas about that right now, but that could be something I could think about. And again, they're only a tier 2, so they're not very big. Yeah, so maybe I just find some space for them. I should draw in this lift system.
Or maybe they occupy a lot of medieval and a bit later bridges were real estate. They had buildings on them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that would
Right.
definitely be the case for these sets of bridges here.
Yeah.
So yeah, that could be maybe they sort of set up in one of the sets of bridges there. All right, so let's draw in our some of this. I think for the purposes of this, there's going to have to be more than just one like lift area up from the river here, right? To irrigate this entire place. So maybe there's like a series of them along here.
Could also depend on, if you lift it up above the aqueducts, carry it farther.
True.
You could start off with a pretty substantial flow of water.
Well, either way, that's about where that is. Roughly. Okay. So then past that, so we do want to have our sort of more industrial territory here. Which I think makes sense. Oh, and we need our other shipping. Our local stock here.
It does make sense for a lot of industry to surround that one.
Totally. So that we want to be relatively, and that should probably also be kind of connected to
to those southern bridges.
The bridges, yeah, exactly. So let's have that kind of straddle this. Make the shape fun. Let's do like a little, even though it's not water, we'll pretend like it's little piers here and stuff. Who knows if that makes any sense, but whatever, it's fine. So those are our gross docks. Oh, look at those lines. They're so crooked. Ugh. And then in here can be our industry. What else? What else would we want to be close to those in that area?
Well, well-to-do are the people who live adjacent to the park and fairgrounds, if festival grounds, if anybody does live adjacent to them.
Probably like, I don't know, middle-ish.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that's our.
I mean, I can see that stretch between your industry and the
Here.
festival grounds being housing for, I don't know, industry owners, not necessarily the labor,
Right.
the people.
A lot of them live in Spooky Town because they have to.
Right.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
What is...
That's Middle Managementville.
So, Marshall's Cloke being a food importer, would there be granaries or other sort of storage,
Yeah.
food storage places
Sure.
adjacent to this one, maybe to the north,
Here.
so that it can be distributed up to the rich people more easily?
I buy
I
that.
don't know what... Anything special that needs to happen between the bridges? Or can that be a warehouse district?
Yeah, I think that makes sense to be a warehouse district. You'll leave the corner off here for North Bridges.
Other than distribution and I can't think of anything that wants to buy the port. Fishing is clearly not a thing.
Nope.
Unless you have skyfish.
Skyfish. Now there's an idea.
Go around netting birds. So now we've got the order sandwiched between the bourgeois and the warehouses, which I kind of like, actually.
Say that again.
I said now you have the order of the holy ground sandwiched between the bourgeois and the warehouse, which I'm not sure is a bad thing.
Yeah, I think that's nice. And then at least some of this area in here, I think, makes sense to be sort of your, well, I mean, next to the docks here, your sort of like merchant, like trading, like your big commercial areas.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe a large swath of that bit to the south can be your farm work
Say that again.
housing.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, a lot of that I think is definitely going to be sort of like slumland. So here's a question. So if there's a gate here, so this is kind of your main gate. And this is like, I guess you're sort of like low gate.
That was,
kind of
is there ground access from that
here,
south foot?
yes. This is, I guess it's kind of hard to see from the camera, but this is. So there's access here that sort of tapers down, and then this tapers down as well.
The south paw.
The south paw, yes. So what do you think would be important to have around that gate? If anything.
Is there a class of people that do venture, like hunting or exotic?
Yes. That is what the Ring March is. I'm imagining the Ring March as sort of like a expedition group, like people who will, like mercenaries who will go out into the wilds and get stuff or do stuff for you, like that kind of thing.
Well, that seems like they would have an enclave very near that gate,
I buy that.
and there's probably a bit more warehousing. I imagine that the more northerly gate is a bit clearer. I don't know. Maybe there's something of a kept promenade that carries through the commerce section past the festival grounds and up into the seat of power there.
Totally.
Whereas, you don't want all those ruffians coming through that gate.
Right.
So you send them all down to the south.
And I do think on either end of these gates, or on either of these gates, I think there's going to be some manner of military presence.
Mm-hmm.
Up at the northern gate is going to be, a fancier, more official. Like there might be some kind of fort or something there, like we were saying. Whereas here, this is more like your maybe this is like where the prisons and stuff are.
Hmm. Right near the gate seems a bit risky for a prison, though.
Sure.
Well, I mean, when the only place to escape to is pretty deadly, maybe that's not a huge concern.
Also that. Um, yeah, I mean,
And
maybe they're
having your
in here somewhere connected to the docks.
hmm.
For like, I don't know how important would it be for? No, maybe that would also be too much of an escape risk kind of a thing.
I mean, I kind of think it depends on what sort of model we're looking at. Like your dungeons are in your, you know, where
Yeah,
you keep your political prisoners and people, in your own basement. Whereas, the more modern idea of out in the middle of nowhere where it's not going to pay anybody off.
I think there might be a mix of both. Because especially going for your
Well, is publication a thing? Like, are there stockades and where in the commerce section in
um
the
uh
gallows? Is
I
execution a
don't know.
thing?
I feel like it would probably be more of a sort of prison labor type thing.
Hmm. Are the bridges the only way to the fields, or are there gates into the
Other
fields?
gates.
Because you could put the prison if there's access there, and you're making these labor in the fields, or are you making them labor for?
Industry. Yeah, I don't
Well,
know.
mining. Although mining is a very pleasant operation.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think you would have them involved with Iker mines. I think that's a thing that the and
Sensitive.
and if it is, it's that becomes not the purview of the the police or whatever anymore. Like that's like trading
Mhm.
prisoners to the Iker Supply Guild kind of
Okay.
thing. To to respect that they have their own sort of operation.
I mean, farming and mining is generally where you send your unskilled labor.
Mm-hmm.
So if mining is out, then it makes sense to me that it would be near the farms.
Farms or the factories or whatever. So maybe we
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I guess we did establish that it's slightly more industrial and less middle
right.
um, in industry technology. My mother was a textile factory worker
Mm-hmm.
originally.
So maybe we cut out a bit of this section of the warehouse district and put our prison district here. So that's near the industry. It's near the farms. And then we can have more warehouses down here also.
Although now the housing and the I see, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's cutting that warehouse off from the docks, but we can fill that in with this one down here. Oh my word, my lines. So then, if this just ends up being kind of slummy neighborhoods down here, the thing I would like to do is have enough flavor to sort of differentiate some of these areas.
Absolutely. I mean, your factory workers don't want to mix with your farm hands.
That
They
is
smell a
true.
different sort of that. And then some areas are going to be a bit safer than others.
Yeah, so maybe that ends up just kind of splitting. In here somewhere. That you've got your warehouses here, you've got your industry housing, and then your agriculture housing down here. So yeah, maybe there is some access out the wall there. Let me take a peek in the stuff they've got in the book here and see what kind of districts and whatnot they have represented. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to read through some of this and see if that sparks any fun ideas.
In the Blades in the Dark.
Yeah, because
Well,
they've got their whole city map here with a bunch of things and districts and cool. Because yeah, otherwise it's just this little bit here that needs to be kind of filled in.
hang on. I'm in the wrong window for a moment. Yeah. I do feel like the powers that would want that to be fairly well controlled.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe that's just a lot of residential area.
Yeah.
That this is your middle managementville and this is your upper managementville. And then this is your, fancy stuff up here.
Mm. and then and a military presence right at the gate.
Right at the gate here, yeah.
You didn't label your little adventures enclave at the bottom.
Oh, you're right.
I can't remember what.
The Ring March.
Ring March.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause the other thing I'm trying to think about is I don't necessarily want. I think it's good to have. Not just straight up like this area is this faction. It's more stuff like this is an area and this faction has, that's their territory kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And whatnot. So and I'll have to look and see how they order some of that, to see if some of those are like overlapping at all, or how some of that works. So most of this stuff is accounted for.
Well, I think I have to sign off.
All right. Thanks for the help.
Oh, thanks for involving me.
Absolutely.
This is something I enjoy a great.
Well, you're not alone in that. Hence why I've been at this for almost 4 hours. Cool. All right.
Talk to you later.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye.
I guess, did everybody else leave? Oh, I guess so.
Yeah. How do I actually leave?
There's a right down below. You should see the disconnected. There's a little disconnect button. Cool. So I'll take a little bit of time just to sort of, for my own sake, kind of figure out where some of these other factions kind of fit in terms of where their turf is and that kind of thing. Specifically looking at some of my underworld factions here. So let's see. I think well, I wonder where the cult sort of operates out of now. Maybe they operate out of one of these warehouse districts. Of the Circle of the Sundered Veil. Past that, I think I do really like the idea of the Blue Fingers, who are this pretty tier 3 faction of assassins, basically. I think I like the idea of them operating out of the Trough. That's kind of their deal. Bohemians, I'm not sure. Thunderhook's Gambit, the current running idea I have with them is that they're involved with sort of getting into trading, trade routes and things like that, and basically like stowing away and hooking on and off ships in and out illicitly, that kind of thing, like getting around tariffs and those sorts of things, which the idea I had for that is that they have this thing where they sort of are exploiting a loophole in the rules about sort of all this stuff can only happen, or jurisdiction is only like within the city walls, and so they do this thing where they like, you know, have people who like pole vault kind of onto ships passing like just outside the walls, kind of a thing. So maybe, so that would be kind of going in and out of the docks, which depends exactly where trade routes go, but maybe they operate out of like Spooky Town and stuff. That could be interesting. I said the bread makers could be around the artisans. But they are a pretty small faction. Maybe I can make them more influential. But maybe I also don't want to equate exactly stronger factions, weaker factions kind of a thing. That there's room for less influential factions to have. Yeah, I don't know. Because, especially underworld factions, these would be the areas where the police and the military would have a lot of sway and be able to, would want to be pushing things out of those. And that kind of deal. Wrong pencil. So maybe they operate more out of the industry. Society of Acceptable Losses, I had been thinking of like gamblers, like gambling, maybe in quote unquote insurance, investing, that kind of thing. So maybe they operate out of like the industry, housing, and that kind of thing. So, I mean, I have to, all of this is going to be somebody's turf. So, I mean, some of these bigger factions are going to have more than one. Yeah, I mean, I'll have to see how things are ordered in the book too, but I think this is, if nothing else, a very good, a good start. I think this is neat. And should be very helpful to get going here. Yeah, cool. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this. This has been fun. Thanks for anybody who's still here. Yeah, great. All right. Bye.